world currency.
The New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition. It is May 1st, 2014. Ooh, the dreaded May Day. You know what May 1st is, right? Typically celebrated by the powers that shouldn't be for a multitude of reasons. But tonight, instead of giving them some power, instead of talking about that, I've decided to do quite the opposite. I've decided to put out positive energy. I've decided to bring one of the Cannamoms on tonight. Again, a third one. Instead of putting out negative energy, I'm trying to put out positive energy this week. And even last week I was doing the same thing. I'm trying to... I often talk about a lot of negative things. And I'm trying, because I know it's the only way to do it properly, to lead by example by putting positive messages out there as well as negative ones. And I even when I talk about negative stuff, I do so in a manner that I don't push fear and stuff. You all know that, but still, it's my duty, if I'm going to do this properly, to put out good vibes. And I like to help people. My show doesn't always have to be about conspiracies or exposing things or anything of the nature. Sometimes I can use my platform to give a voice to those who need it. And the four ladies that make up the Cannamoms, I feel that they need as much attention as they possibly can get. All four of them are amazing women in their own right. They're amazing mothers. And all four of them deserve the attention that I'm giving them. And I urge you all to take my interviews that have already aired with Sierra and Renee, spread them all over. Take this one when it's up in the archives, wherever it is, on Federal Jack, Truth Frequency, YouTube, spread it all over. People need to hear these interviews. And tonight, you're going to hear the story of Jacel Delgadillo and her son Bruno. You can find Bruno's Facebook page, Pray for Bruno. Everybody and their mother has a Facebook account, okay? I don't want to hear it. So go on Facebook, look up this kid's page, and like it. Go look up all the Cannamoms. Go on Facebook and type hashtag Pray for Bruno, all one word. That's where Jacel updates between the hashtag and the Pray for Bruno page. She updates daily about his condition. You're going to hear all about it tonight. You live in Florida, vote yes on 2 in November. Educate your loved ones about medical cannabis. Why do these little kids have to suffer? Nothing bothers me more than seeing kids suffer. I told you all this last week. I've seen some pretty horrific things in my lifetime. And you know what? Nothing bothers me more than a sick child. Well, actually, there is one thing that bothers me more than a sick child. People that won't help that sick child. They bother me a little bit more. People that are willing to let children, and for that matter, any other human being, suffer needlessly because of their ignorance or their fear based on ignorance about a natural substance, a plant that grows out of the earth. And I don't want to hear, well, cocaine comes from a plant. Yeah, it's refined, processed, and everything else, and then turned into coke. And yeah, you can chew on the leaf of the plant, but cocaine itself is a refined thing. Cannabis, you pluck the bud off the plant, dry it out, break it up, put it in some paper, and you can smoke it. I mean, yeah, you can pull oil from it. But even that isn't really the same process as what happens to something like cocaine. So we have to stop thinking that they're in the same class. Oh, well, the DEA says it's a Schedule I drug, Popeye. Okay. And so the DEA's argument is completely invalid. The head of the DEA can't even explain why it's a Schedule I drug. Because it's dangerous. She just sits there and go look at when she's been grilled. Go look. She's been grilled by Congress. Like a deer in headlights, drooling. That's what happens. These bureaucrats have no clue. Most of them don't even know anything about the substance that they're trying to ban. Well, it causes hell on earth. Yes, cannabis opens up pits of hell and fire. That's exactly what cannabis does. Ridiculous. Anyway, I want you all to hear the story of Jacel and Bruno. So sit back, get a glass of wine, get a cup of coffee, whatever. This is some rough stuff, by the way, what this little guy goes through. This little man goes through is ridiculous. He's a tough little guy because he's still here. He's still fighting. And his mother's even tougher because she gives him strength and still has another child to raise. Plus finds the strength to get herself out of bed in the morning and handle all of this. Again, these women are amazing. If you don't know who the Cannamoms are, you're going to find out. And you need to go look in my archives and listen to the other interviews. Again, Renee Petro, Sierra Riddle. Go listen to them. Here we go. Jacel Delgadillo and her son, Bruno. So, Jacel, welcome to the broadcast, and thank you for giving me, some time today. I know you're a very busy lady. You have 2 kids to take care of, and everyday life is already hectic. And then for your situation, I'm sure it's 10 times as hectic at least. So, thank you for coming on today and giving the listeners a chance to get to know who you are and get to know Bruno. So let's get right into it. Go ahead and tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and pick up wherever you want with Bruno's story and tell the whole world all about what you and your son go through.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. I truly appreciate giving me the opportunity to share my son's story. My son's name is Bruno Sillo. He was born a healthy child, normal delivery. I had a healthy pregnancy. Everything was perfect up until he was 3 months. At 3 months and a half, actually, we were living in New Jersey, and I was just changing his clothes, normally, and he just started shaking. I thought, okay, maybe he's cold, maybe something's happening to him. I called family over to come and check him. He was fine up until then. We were looking at him, and he was still shaking. We didn't know what was going on, and I realized, okay, this could be a seizure because he's not really looking at me and he's still trembling and his eyes are just set on one area. So finally, maybe 5 minutes later, it's when he finally snapped out of it. At that moment, we called 911. We didn't know what was happening to him. 911 came over. They took us to the hospital. He was post-ictal, which means he was just sleeping off from the seizure. He was post-ictal at the hospital. They did numerous tests. They did a CAT scan. They did an EEG for like maybe 30 minutes. They did blood work. They did all type of tests on him. Everything was negative. He was fine. They say maybe it could have been from acid reflux. I was not sure because, I hadn't just fed him. We were just changing him. After that, everything came back normal. We were sent home. They said, it could be once in a lifetime seizure that he had, and they didn't know the cause because he didn't have a fever. Later on, a week later, again, I thought I had seen him shaking, but I'm like, okay, maybe it's my imagination. Maybe I'm just too nervous. And he had a little bit of a seizure, like a small seizure, but I was nervous that I thought maybe it's not. Minutes later, again, he starts shaking, and this time for a longer period, it was over maybe 3 minutes, and he was still shaking. So call 911 again. We end up in the hospital again, and, he didn't have a fever. All the tests were normal, so they say, okay, this time maybe we'll just have to put him on a seizure medication, because it's the second time. They kept us in the hospital for 24 hours. They performed an EEG again, a video EEG. But he didn't seize overnight. It was another one-time seizure again. And they sent us home the next day with medication for seizures. I would say maybe 2 weeks later, again, I'm just sitting with him, and we're at a Halloween party and for my daughter. And one of the kids tells me, why is Bruno blue? And I said, what? And when I look at him, he was blue. We call 911 again. He didn't have a seizure, but he was blue. Now I can honestly say he did have a seizure, but I didn't know he was having one, which are called absence seizures. He's not shaking, but he just stays staring, and seizures usually make him turn blue. So we call 911. By the time we get there, his oxygen level is fine. He's fine. They probably thought I was just a crazy mother bringing my child for seizures, thinking he's turning blue. And they sent me home again. They sent me home that night. I had left my daughter with a friend at her Halloween party while I was in the hospital. We come home. Everything. We go to sleep the next morning. At this point, I flew my mom from Miami to New Jersey. The next morning, he starts seizing. He's having a seizure again. So again, we call 911. At this point, I think the rescue already knew us. Bring me back to the hospital. This time they admit us because we had just left there the night before, just to come back the next morning with my son seizing. They admit us. They put him on the EEG. Apparently, the seizure med wasn't working. They do an MRI, comes back normal. All his tests are always coming back normal. He ends up having a seizure during that week while on the EEG. At this point, they capture the seizure on EEG, but there's controversial between two doctors. One is saying that he's seizing. The other one was saying he's not seizing. They had to give him oxygen, and he always usually turns blue when he has a seizure. So they say he's not seizing. The other one says he's seizing. At this point, I'm not sure who to trust, and I'm not sure what else to do. 2 days later, they take away one of the meds because apparently it wasn't working, and they start him on a new medication. Before starting the new medication, I'm just carrying him. He turns blue. So they come, give him oxygen. He comes back to his color. And at this point still, again, seizing, not seizing. But yet he has turned blue. It was only 4 months, and this has happened within 1 month of his, between 3 months and 4 months old. We're in the hospital, and this is all happening. Finally, they send us home on a new seizure medication. I said I didn't want to see the doctor anymore, the one that said he was not seizing. So I stayed with the doctor that said he was seizing because I'm seeing him seize for a whole month. He's seizing. The pediatrician, which I loved her, she sent me to another hospital to get a second opinion to find out why he's having all these episodes. We go to the second hospital. They do tests. Everything comes back normal. The neurologist at the hospital ordered a genetics test. Thank God he did. By the time he's, 6 months, by the time he's 5 months, actually, we go back to see him to find out what the results are for all his testing. And the genetics test says he's missing a gene. He's actually missing a couple of genes from chromosome 2. And this gene causes, it's very common in children with Dravet Syndrome, D-R-A-V-E-T, Dravet Syndrome. It's intractable seizures, very hard to manage, hard to control with medication. So they give me the diagnosis. I have no idea what Dravet was. My neurologist was very honest and said he's never had a patient with Dravet syndrome. So we look up Dravet syndrome. When we start reading, all I can do is cry because it's not pretty. It's not a pretty thing to read. It's intractable seizures. They're developmentally delayed. Some of them go through ataxia, a hard time walking, hard time sitting up, hard time maintaining themselves. They depend on someone else to live. They don't really have a normal life like any other kid would. So when I read all this about my son, who's 5 months at the time, turning 6 months, all I can do is cry and cry. Finally, they told me that if, just to carry my genetics report at any hospital that I go to, because some of these kids are not allowed to take other anti-seizure medication. They can only take a certain amount of medication, and some of the medication could actually worsen the seizures. Seizures with Dravet syndrome can last up to 30 minutes. They could last longer. They could be for hours, which in this case they're called prolonged seizures. Bruno has had, I would say, all types of seizures. Right now, Bruno's 2.5 years old. When he turned 6 months, it was 1 January, he was about to turn 7 months, he starts seizing in the middle of the night. The seizure stopped maybe 3 minutes later. Since it has stopped, I'm like, okay, let me observe him. But he's sleeping, but shaking at the same time. He's having like jerks. His body jerks. And I didn't know that was another type of seizure, that, it was an ongoing seizure. I call 911 because he's doing this for a good half an hour. 911 gets there. They give him oxygen. He's still having those jerks while he's trying to sleep. Finally, they take him to the hospital, and they had to stop the ambulance because they couldn't stop the seizure. And they had to put the IV in. They had to make sure he was on oxygen. Lasted about 16 minutes plus, the seizure in the ambulance. By the time we got to the hospital, he was knocked out. I honestly thought that my child was leaving me. I didn't think he was going to make it. He had never seen so much like he did that day. So he ended up with a respiratory infection called RSV, and they had to put him on oxygen. They told me that with his condition, he could get worse and get intubated. I thank God he didn't. But he was on oxygen and he was miserable and having seizures nonstop. They had to give him rescue meds, and this was in the ICU. So we were back to the hospital for a couple of days. Then I had to get a transfer to a hospital in New York. This was happening in New Jersey. I transferred to a hospital in New York because I found out that there was some neurologists in New York that knew about Dravet Syndrome. Such a rare syndrome that you want to use doctors that know about the condition. So I requested a transfer to New York, to a hospital in New York, and they saw him there. They changed his medication, adjusted medications. At this time, he's already taking 3 medications to control seizures. He was hospitalized in New York. We were discharged, so we spent a good 2-3 weeks in the hospital. One in New Jersey, and then we were transferred to New York. We finally came home, and he had breakthrough seizures between January to June. I would say that's when he was about to turn 1 in June. So he had hundreds of seizures between his first year of life. We were back and forth in the hospital. Any sickness will cause him to have a seizure. He was having daily seizures that I didn't even know he was having because of the myoclonic jerks, partial seizures, absent seizures. These are non-moving seizures, but they're like jerks that happen in his body. Like if someone is giving you an electric shock, that's what it looks like. And they're ongoing. They keep going, every other minute, every 5 minutes. There's like no stop, even with all the seizure medications that he was taking. We went into the hospital for pneumonia. He was having lots of seizures then. Back to the ICU, back and forth to the ICU and the pediatric floor. He turned 1, and he was doing okay, I was saying, before his first birthday. When he turned 1, the community did a fundraiser for him, since he was having so many issues in the hospital and with the uncontrollable seizures. Right after his birthday, I would say 3 days later, it's my daughter's birthday. She has her birthday, and she gets sick with a fever. Once she gets a fever, that means, okay, your child that doesn't have a special need gets sick, then you have to worry more about the child that has a need. So my daughter gets sick with a fever, and I'm more concerned about my child, the little one, not to get sick. So I start giving him Tylenol, Motrin. I start medicating both of them with, Tylenol and Motrin around the clock, trying to avoid a seizure on my child who didn't have a fever. Overnight, he ends up having a seizure. And it was like 5 minutes. At this time, I give him emergency meds that the hospital in New York had given me to administer to him for any seizures over 5 minutes. So I give him that emergency med, which is called Diastat. It's a benzo. Benzos are usually addicted to the body. So I give him Diastat. He starts breathing, like if he's having problems breathing. At this point, 911 was on our way. So we take him back to the emergency room, back to being admitted, and needless to say, my daughter's school was, it was going to be her last week of kindergarten, and she literally missed her last week of kindergarten in New Jersey. She had the fever, and then I was stuck in the hospital, so I couldn't really send her to school the next day, her with a fever at home, and me at the hospital with Bruno with the seizures. So I felt bad. I thank God my mom was there. She was from here. She was in New Jersey from Miami, because at least my daughter was able to stay with grandma, with both grandmas. And she didn't feel so left out because I'm stuck at the hospital with my son who's having seizures while my daughter's at home sick. And she was missing her last days of school for kindergarten. finally, we come out of the hospital, and he seems to be having new type of seizures, which are called eye flutters. The eyes blink a lot. So I bring him to the doctor in New York for a follow-up. The doctor in New York sees him and says, okay, those are seizures as well. Let's admit him and do an EEG and check him and try to adjust medications. And that's what we ended up another week at the hospital in New York, being admitted. So most of his first year was stuck at hospitals. They take out medication, they add a new one. After a week, they say, okay, he's good. At this point, I'm thinking of coming to Miami to see, my mom lived in Miami. I'm thinking of coming to Miami to see Miami Children's. There's a specialist there for Dravet, and they have a Dravet clinic. So my goal was I need to go to Miami, see the specialist. Hundreds of patients come to see him from different states, so I'm going to be going to Miami Children's and have my son getting checked there. So after we left the hospital, it was his baptism that weekend. We left the hospital Friday. We baptized him Saturday, and on Tuesday we're flying down to Miami. And I said, if these doctors are good and, you know, they have a plan for him, then my goal will be to stay in Miami, because my son needs help. You know, I was tired of living in a hospital, and between New Jersey and New York, I spent most of his life in the hospital his first year, and it wasn't fair to my daughter. She was 5 at the time, and she kept coming to the hospital because she wants to be with me and her brother, so I would let her stay at the hospital with us. So she started living the life of a 5-year-old, you know, being stuck to her little brother at a hospital. So she already knew the hospital very well. I come here to Miami. I never forget, it was July the 5th when I moved of 2012, right after his first birthday. July 13, he has an absence seizure. He turns blue, and his arm starts shaking up and down. So 911 gets called, and we end up at Miami Children's Hospital. It was good to be at the hospital where they knew what Dravet Syndrome was. They already knew his condition. They had doctors see me, geneticists, and they had people that knew about Bruno's condition. So they started giving me all this paperwork, and they started telling me he needs all this type of therapies, which he had started therapy in New Jersey for early intervention. So he was 1, and he was not sitting up yet. In Miami, they start right after the hospital. They give me all this paperwork. I make appointments, evaluations for therapy. He qualifies for all the therapists, occupational, physical, feeding, speech. At the time, he was 13 months. We start our life in Miami. He's having tons of the body movements, the jerks. So they're called myoclonic jerks and partial seizures. So he's having tons of them throughout the day. The doctor notices. They suggest a diet that has shown to help children with seizures. It helps them with either controlling the length of seizures, the time, or controlling not to have any seizures. So they put my son on the ketogenic diet. It's a diet that's high in fat, no sugar. So everything, it's weighed. You need a lot of commitment to be on this diet. I needed a scale. I needed to buy lots of butter, MCT oil, the food that I made for him, because he had difficulty eating. Everything had to be pureed. So whipping cream gets added to the meals, and everything is by weight. It's by grams. So just to give you an example, if I was to feed him banana Gerber, I will have to use like 21 grams of banana Gerber and 26 grams of natural butter mixed with the Gerber, and that was count it as a meal for him. And we count the calories per day. So by the time he was 1.5, I would say he was on a 1,000 calorie diet, and he was on the 4-to-1 ratio ketogenic diet too. So it's all based on the ratio and the calorie intake. And if I wanted to give him crackers, because he wanted to eat crackers, I had to make sure I added yogurt to the diet and add oil to it, or butter. So everything was based with butter and oil for every meal he had. He couldn't eat just a piece of cracker unless we added oil or butter to it. So it's a very hard diet to follow. It's very hard to manage, but it's worth it if you see results. I didn't see the results right away. I thought I did, but I would say, Bruno was easily having 300 seizures a day. And that's not a week, it's a day. And it's hard to hear the number, but it was reality. He was having a head drop, a twitching, another head drop, an absence. Within one day, he could easily have 300. He was on the diet for a whole year. He was still having the head drops and the myoclonic jerks. The doctor had given me the 2 emergency meds. One is clonazepam, which is also on the benzo. It's a benzo, and the diastat, which is a benzo as well. Clonazepam is given to him for clusters of seizures, and the diastat is for any seizure over 5 minutes. He's been taking those as needed. He started a new medication, which I didn't want to start because I hear it's on the benzo family as well, but it's very addictive. But when it helps, it helps. If it doesn't, it's not going to help. So he started this medication called Infancy. This was an FDA-approved drug as of 2 years ago. He started the medication, I would say, like when they couldn't figure out how to stop those 300 seizures a day, they added Infancy to his medication list. He started Infancy. It wasn't really helping. They went up on the dose. It didn't help. They went low on the dose. It didn't help. At this point, he's already taking it. I can't take him off of it. He's still on it as of this day, because if you remove this medication from a child that has seizures, it's just going to cause more seizures because the body needs this medication. Once you start your child on Infancy, it's hard to get him or her off of it, whether it helps or not. My doctor said if it hasn't helped, it's not going to help. But because it's hard to remove from the system, as of this day, he's still on that medication. After having 300 plus seizures a day, we were in the hospital for a good 15 days. This is after his 2nd birthday. He's on this medication. He's still on Infancy. He's still on the diet. We don't know what else to do. The doctor's like, I don't know what else to do with Bruno. And at this point, there's a documentary coming out. I had spoken to some other parents that are using this treatment for their kids, and there's a documentary coming out by Dr. Sonia Costa. I'm sure many have seen it, and it's called Weed. And I start watching it. I've heard parents, there's a parent in California that started using cannabis with his son, who also has Dravet Syndrome, which I totally adore him. We met him at a Dravet conference, and he had a private meeting with some of the parents regarding cannabis. And I research it, I look it up, and I start reading, and I'm like, wow, this is helping some children, and it's helping some of the children come off pharmaceuticals. Like my son, he's on pharmaceuticals, and as of today, and he's 2.5, he's going to be 3 in June, the pharmaceuticals are not controlling his seizures. I can honestly say he's had 1 month seizure-free only. he still seizes. Today he's still seizing. He's having lots of head drops and jerks, and his eyes deviate and stay fixed. So he's having seizures still. Right after he turned 2, that special comes out, and I tell the doctor, wow, my son could probably benefit from that. You know, it's helping a little girl with 300 seizures a week. It has helped this little boy in California, and he was having seizures every day as well. Maybe cannabis could be the answer. But I'm in Florida now, so cannabis is not legal here, not medically, not recreationally. The medication that my son will use, it comes from the marijuana leaf, and it's an oil that gets extracted. He wouldn't get high from it, but it could actually help with seizures. It's called CBD. If it hasn't worked on all patients because you need to add more to it, which is called THC, and this is the THC is what gets people high if you smoke it. My son will probably need a small amount that it wouldn't get him high, but he will still need that small amount of THC. I haven't tried it on him. We're not in a legal state. We're praying that Florida becomes the next legal state for medical cannabis, because I've seen other children that has benefit from medical cannabis, not only for seizures, but also for cancer. My 3 other good friends, which are Cannamoms, you know, we have little Landon that's, you know, leukemia-free, thank God, cancer-free, thanks to cannabis. And we have my little girl, Dahlia, and, you know, she's coming along. If you meet her, you will see her hair growing, and you will see how active she is right now. It's beautiful to see them, and they're like my hope for Bruno right now. I'm praying that my other friend's son, Brandon, you know, benefits from medical cannabis, and we can stop his seizures. Bruno, I think it will help Bruno in many areas. You know, Bruno doesn't speak right now. He doesn't walk. He doesn't talk. He has problems with feeding. It could benefit on many areas, and it has done this for other children. You know, there was the little girl that was on a wheelchair. You know, she had lost the ability to walk because of all the seizures. She started medical cannabis. You know, she regained it back. You know, she regained back her eating. She regained back her walking, her talking, her running. And I want that for him. I think Bruno deserves a chance. He is right now on multiple medications. He is also taking a medication that's not FDA approved. I don't know if it's working anymore. It kind of helped from November till now, and that would be November, and we are now in April. It helped, but it also made him very lethargic, making him lose, regressing, and then he had to work back on the skills that he had learned in therapy, which was sitting up and trying to stand. He is on potassium bromide. That medication is used by veterinarians. So if my son needs this medication, it either has to be ordered from a specific pharmacy, or I've heard that in Colorado you can get it from a veterinarian. So you can imagine how I felt when they told me, you know, maybe that will help him. I didn't really want to try that medication on him because it's a veterinarian drug. So I'm like, if we can try a veterinarian drug on a child, why not medical cannabis? Medical cannabis is on the ballot now for Florida on November 4th. I'm going to advocate for it. I'm still advocating for it. I want this to be an opportunity for my son to use. It will help him somehow. And I believe that if we get voters out there to approve this, we're going to see good results, especially with children that deserve a chance at taking something else other than being medicated. than just laying there and continuing to have seizures, even though they're taking all these medications. My son is on 4 medications plus vitamins, and he's still seizing, and he has to take medications 3 times a day. If he's going to get sick, I have to add more medications to him for supplements also. So it's constantly, popping pills into my son's mouth. And I don't pop the pills because I have to crush them, put them in a syringe, and give it to him by mouth. So he needs to swallow. My son is, he knows that when he's going to be taking the medication, because it's come to the point that he's so tired of taking medications 3 times a day, 4 syringes 3 times a day, that he holds the medication in his mouth. He holds it and he won't swallow it. So I have to do all tricks on him to get him to swallow his medication. He'll hold it until he's able to let it out and just let it run down through his cheeks. He's so tired of medicine. That's all he knows. He's, 32 months. He's been taking medicine since he was 3 months. And I would understand if he was not seizing as of today, if he was actually, working on his skills that he needs, on his therapies. But instead, we're working on therapies plus seizure control. It's like an ongoing battle with the seizure control. He's 31 months. He still doesn't have that seizure control. We're praying that medical cannabis will be the seizure control medication that he needs. It's a natural plant. Unfortunately, they have it as a Schedule 1 drug when he's on other drugs that have caused more harm to him than I think the Schedule 1 drug would. We've never heard of any deaths or overdose because of medical cannabis. And I think it's absurd that, they have it scheduled as a Schedule 1 drug. I know this will help him. Seizure-wise, in every aspect, and he needs help in every aspect. He shouldn't have to struggle to sit up because a head drop is coming. He has to wear a helmet even just to sit up, because if he's playing with a toy and a head drop comes, he'll hit his forehead on that toy, or his whole body will fall on that toy, and he'll get hurt. He has done it before. Just recently, we were in the hospital last week for pediatric issues. We are discharged, and the next day, after being in the hospital for a week, the next day he has a seizure that turns him blue. Have to call 911, and back to the hospital we go. So he's very popular at the hospital. I love them because of the way they treat him, and they know him. He loves his nurses. He loves his doctors. But unfortunately, it's not a place we want to be known at. It's good that we're known because we're there so frequently that we want that extra support. By going through all the hospital stays, at least, we know that we're going to people that care for him and that know, when he's having a good day or not. I went to Colorado in the summer. Not in the summer, I'm sorry. I went to Colorado in December because I was upset. I was fed up. I'm like, I don't want any more seizures. I don't have anybody in Colorado that's family, like my mother or my uncle. I don't have a family member there. I have good friends. But you also need your family support. And I went to Colorado. I went to see if I sign up Bruno for his medical cannabis card. I would stay with a friend because I need help for him. I don't know what else to do, and I don't want to do it illegally. And, I don't want to lose my child. I want to make sure that he stays with me. I'm his mother. Nobody will take care of him like I would. I don't want him in foster care. And if I were to administer medical cannabis to him in Florida, that's where he would end up. So I want I went to Colorado. I went to search options. I signed up to put him on medical cannabis. He's on the waiting list for medical cannabis over there. My plans right now, and I'm extremely nervous. I don't even know how I'm going to do this, but somehow I will do it. You know, I need to do this for my son. I also have to think of my daughter, so this is why I will have to do this in the summer. My plans are to bring him to Colorado in the summer, stay in Colorado for the summer, and start him on medical cannabis. But honestly, I shouldn't have to do this. Why should I go somewhere where I have no family members? I don't have a doctor there. I don't have a neurologist. I don't have his therapist there. You know, his life right now in Miami, it's mainly either at the hospital or therapies. You know, he comes to therapies he comes 3 times a week for 3 hours, sometimes 4 hours. And they know him at therapy. They know when he's having a good day as well. They know when he's having too many seizures. They know when he's having too many head drops. So they know him there. And I don't want to change his therapist because they're helping him so much. I don't want to change his doctor because they know him. I want to change my support because if I have an emergency, my mom can take care of my daughter. If I move to Colorado, I don't really have anybody there. I have to start from scratch. But it's unfortunate that a lot of parents have to take off and move to a different state just to get medication for their children. And right now, that's my plan for the summer. I'm praying that, you know, if it works in the summer and he's doing great, that November comes, this will get approved and I can start, you know, heading back home. I have to see how it all works out. I honestly can't say, okay, this is my plan because we don't know what could happen in the future. We were planning on going to Colorado in November when I first thought of applying, and in November we ended up in the hospital. So I had to change my tickets, postpone everything for the following month, praying that December will be a good month for him to fly. So we did. We did all the paperwork in Colorado in December. We come back and he gets sick again, so he was hospitalized again in December. So we spent a lot of time in the hospital, and I know medical cannabis will probably prevent from spending too much time in the hospital. A lot of people worry that if medical cannabis becomes, it gets voted, that their children are going to start inventing illnesses just to obtain a prescription and get the medical cannabis. I can honestly say I don't think it's going to work that way. You need to have a history. You need to have a history, a medical history, in order to qualify. And they have the conditions listed, you know, for people that can use medical cannabis. I went to Colorado in December. It didn't mean I could automatically get him medical cannabis for him. There's a process for everything. I had to fill out paperwork, send it to the state. I had to bring medical records. The doctors had to review them, make sure that, you know, it's accurate, that it's all legit, that it's not fake paperwork. So it's all a process. So it's not like you're gonna vote for medical cannabis and think, oh, you know, now I'm worried because my teenager wants to start using medical cannabis, you know, or using it as an excuse to use marijuana. It's not like that. We're approving it for medical reasons, and it's all a process that has to be followed. You know, doctors have to follow it. So it's not like opening the doors to start using marijuana for everyone. You have to go through the steps. So I urge and I pray and I beg everyone to please just go out and vote. This could help so many lives. It could save so many people, so many children, so many adults, so many conditions. I have a close friend that has Crohn's disease. You know, she suffers a lot. She goes through a lot of pain. She's a Christian lady. She's a Christian mom. You know, she has 2 kids. She has her family. She's not looking to use marijuana for recreational use. She's looking to use this for her medical condition. My pastor from New Jersey, which I adore, called me and said, Jacel, you need to move to Colorado. You need to get Bruno some cannabis and help him. And this is a pastor from a Baptist church. She has gone through the hospital with me so many times when we were in New Jersey. She knows what I've gone through. She knows what Bruno goes through. She knows that this could help him. And, you know, my pastor telling me, you need to get him cannabis, it meant a lot to me. Because, you know, we grew up in church, we grew up Baptist, and now I'm advocating for marijuana. And I realized, you know what? It's not harmful. You know, even the president said it, you know, alcohol could be more dangerous than marijuana will be. So if somebody's using marijuana, so be it. They're not hurting anybody, you know. They're not killing anybody. They're not overdosing on it. And we want it for medical use. We want it approved in November for medical use. We're not asking voters to go out and approve, you know, recreational marijuana. We want medical cannabis. You know, there's so many people that could benefit from it. Why not? Right now I'm desperate. My son is he started again with the 300 plus. I can easily say that. If I start counting them, he could be easily having 300 seizures right now. And they're not the grand mal, but they're all the other seizures, which in a little body means a lot. You know, he's having head drops, he's having twitches, he's having partials, he's having absent seizures. You know, his eyes twitch, and you can see him, and, you know, he's trying to laugh, and then he's having the seizure and trying to laugh again. You know, he can't even have a simple smile without having a seizure interrupt. So it's hard. And my daughter even says, you know, she had to write a letter to the president for a school. And her letter was, you know, please allow medication for the sick children with cancer and seizures, because that's what she knows right now. So they don't have to move and they can stay with their family happy. And I still have a copy of that letter because it touched me. I'm like, I didn't realize it was such a big impact on her. She's only 7. So she already knows, you know, that cannabis, it's medicine, you know, because of school rules. You know, I teach her, okay, you can't say marijuana, you know, you can say CBD, or she knows cannabis, so she just calls it medical cannabis. But she doesn't really, you know, she doesn't go out and start telling everyone, okay, we need cannabis. But she just says, you know, my brother needs cannabis, because she sees every day his seizures. She sees every day, you know, hospital stays. This is the life that my daughter is living. My son is not able to go out in the sun because heat causes seizures. And I've never taken him to the beach, and we live in Miami. I don't take him to the park. So if I have to do an activity, it has to be with my daughter alone, and someone has to watch him, like my mom or his grandpa or my aunt, because I can't have him out in areas because anything could cause and trigger a seizure. And I want the opportunity for him to be able to go to the park at least and enjoy being on a swing and not have to worry about the heat causing a seizure, the sun causing a seizure, or him getting a head drop in the middle of the park. So there's so, you know, everybody gets affected by this. I can't plan a trip to the beach, you know, just for the day unless I know someone to watch my son. You know, the youth fair was just here. My daughter was on spring break. I couldn't get anybody to watch him, so I couldn't take her to the youth fair. Thank God my cousin called and said, you know what, I'll take her. You know, just give her to me and I'll take her. But she wanted me to go too, and I couldn't because I can't be out in the sun with Bruno because the heat or causes seizures for him. So it's hard. It affects us in all areas, you know, with family gatherings, with, you know, everywhere I go, the first thing I ask is there AC there? Or if it's really cold, do you have, you know, the heater? Make sure it's not too hot in there either. So, you know, it affects us in every area. And even the temperature, the changes in temperature. some kids are not able to take a bath and then come out and they can have a seizure from that, just from that slight room temperature change. And there's a mother out in Colorado. She moved. Her daughter's able to have bubble baths now, and she couldn't before, and she's on cannabis. So I see results from other parents that are on cannabis. I've met them. I keep in touch with them. I talk to them, and some of them are using, the CBD, which doesn't contain too much THC, but some of them have to, add extra to it. Some of them have to add THCA, BCG. There's so many names that, I don't really know them all, but I just know the ones that are helping with seizures or sleeping or eating. And these are all the areas that it affects my son. He's on the watch for G-tube right now because of feeding. I told the dietitian, look, I'm going to see if I go in the summer to Colorado, start him on medical cannabis, and I think this is going to help him with his feeding. And she said, well, I think it will, and just call me when you get back, and we'll monitor him and see how he's done so far. So, it's things that I have planned. I can't really confirm until I've done them. So those are my plans for the future right now. But I am praying that medical cannabis becomes an option for him here in Miami, because this is where my family is. This is where my mother is. This is where his doctors are. This is where his therapists are. And I need the support. And I need family members. My daughter needs her cousins, her family, and people that she knows around. I can't be moving her from place to place, and unfortunately I might have to. So it's something that's always affecting every single one of us. So I pray and I beg for people to go out and vote and help us. You could be saving my son's life, give him a longer lifespan. He's going to be 3. Maybe cannabis will make him live longer with less seizures, and that's what I want for him, just a kid's life. I don't want him to be stuck in hospitals, and hospitals mean IVs. You have to get all this injections and get needles on him. His body has marks from all the IVs that he gets and the EEGs that he gets on his head. His head has, his forehead has a mark from that. So, and he's only 2. So I want a normal life for him, or somewhat normal. And cannabis, it's right now my only option, because he's already gone through all the meds listed for the seizures. There's no more meds available for him. That's the only thing I have left. So I'm begging people to please go out and vote, register to vote. November 4, we need a yes on number 2, and that's what I'm begging for everyone to please make this happen and let it become a reality. But I thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to, say my son's story. It was pretty long, but that's only 2.5 years of his life right now. So I thank you so much for this opportunity.
No problem, Jacel. It's a very powerful story. Every time I talk to one of you Cannamoms, everybody's story is different, yet equally as powerful. Just jaw-dropping. I mean, I'm just sitting here with my microphone muted and my mouth agape, like, just the amount of seizures your son has to go through is just it's jaw-dropping. It's wow. I feel so horrible for what that little boy has to go through, and if cannabis could help actually stop the seizures and even bring them under control, and who knows what kind of other positive results it would have, because it does cause tissue regeneration in the body too. Cannabis is an amazing thing, and you need the THC in it. You need the full plant. I said this to Sierra. I said this to Renee. I think the whole attack on it is based on ignorance. And it's because people are, oh my God, they're going to get high. Sierra told me, people say to her, how does Landon smoke it? Like, what do you think? Gives him a 2-foot water bong, and she's like, hold on, take a hit, go ahead, Landon. I mean, it's just ridiculous. People need to use a little common sense and realize that you could process oil out of it, or not even process, extract oil out of it and use that oil, just plain old cannabis oil, and it would alleviate, a myriad of things, everything from people having seizures to cancer to pain, like you said, Crohn's. I mean, there's so many different ailments that could be cured with this. It's ignorance on the general public and many lawmakers, and then also you got big pharma in there, because after all, the people that, the founders of big pharma and big medicine as we know it today are responsible for making it quote unquote illegal back in the day. So,
and they're the ones that are against medical cannabis because it's going to hurt them financially. And that's where the problem lies. It's like Marinol. Okay, you know that THC is helping cancer patients with pain. Why do you have to go and create a synthetic out of it? Why do you have to go and make it into a pharma? Why not just give them the plant? You're taking the plant and making it into a pill with extra added. There goes the hypocrisy. You're saying that marijuana is addictive, it's a Schedule I drug, but then you can go and create a medicine out of it and make it FDA approved. And this is where the hypocrisy lies, and this is where we see that the big pharmas are the ones that are opposed to medical cannabis, because it's gonna make something natural. They're not gonna be able to make money out of it, so that's where their fight starts. And now with the CBD, now they're going to try out a new trial for CBD, just 100% CBD. But guess who's going to be doing the trial? A pharma, GW Pharma. So I'm not sure how well that's going to work. We won't find out until the results are out, but that's what's going to happen, and they're going to be making big money out of that because they will probably be selling it. And, parents that are desperate will want that for their kids. But it's not containing part of the whole plant. It's just the CBD alone. So it's hard. Like the world that we live in, unfortunately, it's based on money and politics. And now they have politics deciding what medications should we be taking when it should be the doctor and the patient. It shouldn't have to deal with any of the politicians, because I'm sure our governor is not aware of what Dravet Syndrome, what it's really like to live with Dravet Syndrome, or what it's really like to live with Crohn's disease or cancer, So why should someone else be deciding that for us, what medications we should be taking? When they put my son on Depakote, he was on a high dose of Depakote. He was on an adult dosage. I found out that a 38-year-old was taking the same amount of dose that my son was taking, and my son was 2. So there should have been restrictions on that too. But you know what? We have to work with the dosage to see which one's going to work. And that's what's going to happen with, with medical cannabis. Let us be the ones to decide how much CBD should they be using, how much THC should they be using. It shouldn't be a politician deciding that for us, because we're the ones that live with our kids every day. We're the ones that see the side effects that the drugs are causing for them, and we're the ones that are going to see, the good things that, medical cannabis could bring for them. And if they're going to limit us also, there's a problem there, It's like, when the pharmas play a role, it's like making a woman choose, okay, do you want a coach first or do you want the imitation? I'm going to give you one of them, but you choose which one you want, the imitation or the actual real thing. It's like, medical cannabis. Do we want the natural plant or do you want the imitation, which we're going to create, synthetically? I think that's a great way to present it to people, to see, okay, you want everything FDA approved, but it's like making us choose, you want the coach or you want the imitation? Do you want the natural plant or do you want the synthetic plant, synthetic medication? Let us decide, not politicians or pharmacists, because they're not the ones living with our children. They're not the ones living through the pain. They're not the ones going through the symptom of the disease. But we pray and hope and hopefully, you know, that they see that this is something that we are advocating for because we need it. Our children depend on it, and other people's lives depend on it. You know, I'm not one that's a drug addict, you know, advocating for, you know, let's do it because I want it for me. No, I'm advocating because my son needs it. I didn't even know the different names of strains. I had no idea. Honestly, I didn't even know what 420 was till like 50 years when I found out what 420 was, which people laugh. And I'm like, what's 420? Everybody's talking about 420. What is that? I didn't even know. But I'm advocating for medical cannabis. And, you know, now I know. And now I know everything. Not everything, but I'm learning. It's the same way I had to learn about his medication that he takes. You know, I would agree to have my son taken because I'm trusting the doctor to prescribe it. Why not work with me if I've seen, there's no scientific evidence that this could help, but I have my scientific evidence, and my evidence is that I see all these other children getting benefits from it. I see all these other people that are going through pain are no longer going through that pain. And I see other children that couldn't walk that are even walking because, you know, this has helped them control their seizures. They don't have to worry about dropping and seizing because, you know what, cannabis is helping them. You know, for some, like my son, if he's having 300 a day, if he could just bring it to 1 a day, do you know what that means? That's like, wow. It means the whole world, you know, even if it was just having 10, if I could just count them with my hand, it makes a big difference. And if I know this is going to make a big difference for him in this way, then you know what, I'll take it. I'll take 10 over 300, you know, and it's, you know, unless you're living through it, you won't know. And we have to stop this ignorance, you know. I'm not making my son smoke. And you know what? If I had to teach my son to smoke just to have him survive and not have that many seizures, I would do everything in my power to do it because I know it's going to help him and it's going to save him. Fortunately, I don't have to teach him to smoke because he could take it like his other medications through the syringe in his mouth or his food. And it would be a small dose. It's, you know, so we have to stop this negativity on it and then start thinking positive, you know, on how positive it can, you know, the changes that it will make in a child's life, in an adult's life that's going through pain or that's suffering. And it's now when people that have cancer, they're like, oh, how can I obtain this? You know, they come to me and I'm like, unfortunately, we don't have access to it. You will have to move to Colorado if you want to be treated with this. You know, medical cannabis, you will have to move to Colorado. You will have to move to California. You'll have to move to one of the 21st legal states, one of the 21, because now Maryland just became legal. So you will have to move to one of the states that's legal in order for you to be treated with medical cannabis. That's the only way right now, unfortunately. And, you know, we get non-FDA approved drugs shipped to Florida. Why couldn't we get that shipped to us? So hopefully, you know, we'll have people going out there to vote. I pray.
Yeah, vote yes on 2 come November.
Yes, absolutely.
I know the representatives themselves are trying to pass like a CBD oil bill, but that would only help a certain few people. And like you said, one of the magic ingredients in there is the THC. You need full plant. You need the whole plant. You need everything the plant offers, not just one little specific tiny portion of it to help, you know, 1% of the population. Everybody in the state, everybody could benefit from it health-wise. I mean, if everybody actually just took a little pea-sized amount once in a day and once at night, and I mean everybody, like almost like a vitamin or a supplement, there wouldn't be, you know how many diseases would be gone? I mean, it'd be amazing. People would live longer. People would have healthier lives, more fulfilled lives because they wouldn't be in pain. So I'm totally behind it. Jacel, I know you only have a few minutes left because you are a busy mom and you have 2 kids and, you know, life is very hectic. I wanted to ask you one question. I know that Sierra was down here, and I know Renee got a chance to talk to some of these lawmakers. I know you guys got together. Did you get a chance to tell your story to any lawmakers here in the state? And if so, were they receptive to you?
No, I didn't get a chance. The only one that I got a chance to tell my story to was when I first went to, I was learning, and I first went to Tallahassee to say a little bit about Bruno's story, and it was like very short and brief, just to say how many seizures he's having and how it can benefit him. But it was for the CBD bill that they're trying to pass right now. At that time, I didn't really know Sierra. I have read about Landon. I didn't really know too much about Dahlia. I have, seen an interview about her. And it was after that we became good friends. And, in the short time, we've become like best friends. We're calling each other the Cannamoms because now we see, how this whole plan can benefit all of our kids. And it's not just one part of the plan, it's the whole plan. THC plays a major role. And it's like medication, you have to play around with the dose to find out which dose works best. My son is playing around with a dose right now because we've been going up and down on it because we don't know which dose exactly it's going to work to help some of his seizures. And I believe that's going to be the same thing with medical cannabis. You need to play around with it. You need to get a certain amount of CBD. You need to get a certain amount of THC. If you limit us on the THC, then we will never know if a higher dose of THC will benefit them. I just heard from a friend of mine that she's adding extra THC to her daughter's regimen because she started having eye flutters, which are part of the Dravet seizures, and she's never had any eye flutters before, and now she's starting to. So she's adding more THC, and she's saying that as of last night, that's it, no more. She added extra THC, and the more she added, the more they left. So right now she's not having any eye flutters, and that's part of seizures for our kids. Imagine talking to a kid and his eyes just go off blinking nonstop. Those are the eye flutters that they go through, and they become pretty unconscious for, when that's happening. So, she's adding THC to it now. So it helps. We have to play around with meds. We have to play around with our cannabis med, with the amount of medical cannabis that we give them. So when we met the legislators, it was for the CBD bill, but I didn't really know too much on any other medications for cannabis. Like I didn't know that if you add extra THC, it could help. It could help some of the children, or the adults. But now I know. So now I'm getting educated on it, and that's what we have to do. If we don't educate, we won't learn. So that's the best way to learn, by educating and teaching somebody else, and which is what we're doing, and we're helping. We're hoping that, people learn from us, and we're still learning from others as well that are on this medication, on medical cannabis. So hopefully, we will have that opportunity to be able to, work with our meds and either add or take away THC, which is needed for everything. I'm hoping it will become a reality, and it's something that's going to be our option as well.
Yeah, I hope people down here in Florida actually do their homework. That's one of the reasons why I'm really pushing your stories, all the Cannamom stories, as much as I have. Not just for that, to also get your stories out there, but to show people, look, like Renee said, it's different if it's coming from a mom. Like, it's more powerful coming from a mom than if it is from any other individual, I think, because there's so many different straw man type arguments built on different things. Oh, you're a hippie, you just want to do it to get high, whereas everybody has a mom. And most people like their moms, or can at least appreciate the fact that moms, whether they like them or not, do things to look out for them. So when this type of information comes from a mom, I just think it's more powerful and taken more serious.
Absolutely. Even now, people ask me, they're like, "Oh, so how will you administer it?" And I tell them, it's an oil. It's extracted from the plant, and that's how it's given to them. So that's the way I would administer it to him. When he gets older, it might be different, but we don't know that, and I'm praying that he gets to be older so I can work on this for him, even if, maybe he could have a semi-normal life as a child, thanks to this. And I think, a lot of parents will be out there testifying on this. And I foresee, a lot of parents coming out and saying, look, it has helped them, There's a lot of children nearly death experience, and they're on cannabis now, and it's helping them. My son has been through that. It's today, and I don't know how long my son's going to be here for. A seizure can take him. It has happened to other parents, unfortunately. One day they're playing on their scooters. The next morning a seizure comes, and that's it. They're gone. And I want, opportunity for him. So I'm praying that it becomes a reality and that I can, testify in the future. Look, this is what has kept my son alive. And I think it will. And I know for a fact that it will, because if it's helping other patients right now, why wouldn't it help my son? He's going through the same condition or maybe worse. So I know it will help him.
Hopefully people will do their homework and realize that this is not, about people trying to get high. First of all, that's a big misconception about being high, but, that's a whole nother 2-hour broadcast in and of itself, the misconceptions of cannabis. I know you're running short on time, Jacel. Is there anything else that you want to plug? Any websites, any organizations, anything?
Oh, he has on Facebook. I usually update about him through Pray for Bruno. # Pray for Bruno. Pray for Bruno, and his website, but I haven't really updated it. We're working on it to throw in. I've uploaded some of the interviews that I've done with CNN and some of the Spanish interviews that I'm gonna upload today, actually, which is on his website, prayforbruno.com. But usually, I've been doing his follow-ups through Facebook on Pray for Bruno, which, I always, try to post, information regarding how it's coming along here or things that are happening and information, facts about, how medical cannabis is helping. So usually on the website. But, mainly that, my son is taking a veterinarian drug. Why not give him a chance to take a natural drug, Would you rather have your kid on a medication that's for animals or on a natural drug that has, shown to work on other kids, on other people and on other kids? So it's, that's like my main thing. Like why, you can put him on a veterinarian drug, so I can go to a veterinarian and ask him for that medication and they will have it, which I still have to pay for, than a natural plant. We're not asking, okay, get my son high. I'm asking, get my son well. Make him stop having so many seizures in one day. It's not easy to live, with your kid. You're carrying him, and all you feel is like, like if electric shocks are hitting him, because that's how they are. When he's having those partials, it's like if someone is electrocuting, that the body just, when you're trying to revive someone, that the body just jumps. That's what happens to him, and it's constantly. I just want people to, think and research and Google it, medical cannabis, watch weed, and it shows you different conditions and how it has helped other conditions, and just be open-minded. Don't close the doors for those that need it just because you're thinking, negatively about it, or you think, okay, now my son or my daughter are going to want to go and get high because medical cannabis is approved. No, please think of others that are suffering. You never know when it's going to happen to you. My friend didn't think her daughter was going to have cancer. She was doing well up until age 2. She never thought that this was going to be part of her life. Landon either. And my other friend, she wants this to be approved, and her mother is, advocating too, because her son has Batten disease. That's, The little boy was well up until age 4. He had a normal life like any other child up until age 4. He was running, walking, talking, eating, doing everything. Now he's on a wheelchair, having hundreds of seizures while sitting on his wheelchair. He can't talk, he can't walk, he has a feeding tube now because he can't really eat. So these are things that as parents, we expect to have our children with a normal life like any other kids, and things just happen. So you never know when it can happen to a loved one. So don't close the doors for everybody just because you're thinking negative about it. Be open-minded and have others have the opportunity to get treated with medication that it's working, and it's, unfortunately it's called medical marijuana, so people just see the word marijuana and they automatically freak out. But no, it's medicine, it's natural, and it could help and save so many lives. Don't close the doors for all those that need it just because you're thinking that someone else is going to come and try to abuse it and use it recreationally. We have to think about what could happen in the future, and we don't know. We don't know if a grandchild will come out with something. I never had anyone in my family with such syndrome. I had never even heard of it. People had never even heard of it until they met me. I didn't even know what, over 100 seizures meant until Bruno came along. So we have to be open-minded, and we have to give others a chance to get medicated with something natural. So I'm just, asking for everyone to be open-minded about it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Jacel. I appreciate it because, like I said, I know you're very busy. So thank you so much for giving me so much time and giving the listeners so much time to, tell us your story and advocate for cannabis. Thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely. If you need me, if you need to call me back or anything, I'll be more than happy. Actually, I got lucky because my stepdad just got here, so he went up to get him. So I was able to talk more. But thank you. Like, if I was in Colorado right now, I would have to be the one running up there and getting him and having my daughter tagging along. So this is why it's hard, just to get up and go. So I hope people realize, it's not just about getting up and go. It's about a whole new lifestyle and the help that you need. I can't do everything alone. I have a daughter to attend to, so, I can't be at her honor roll assembly and be at the hospital at the same time. So we need family around. So it's not about just, okay, go and move, because we can't just ask everyone, okay, you need a new job now, you need a new car, you need a new lifestyle, just because, we need to get the right medication. So, just don't think, okay, you really want this and go to a state that's legal. It's not that easy. We don't have the money financially to be getting up to go. You need to buy tickets. You need to buy medications. You need to pay, a new rent. You need to adjust to living with, if you never lived in winter, you need to adjust to that. So it's not just get up and go if you want the right medication. It's, a whole lifestyle. It affects everyone. So, it's not that easy. So, unfortunately, if I had the money, yes, I would have left a long time ago. As soon as I heard about medical cannabis, I would have left. If I had the money, then I could probably, make my mom move and my family, but it's not that easy. And, unfortunately, the only way I can do this is by advocating, but I hope, that through advocating I'll be able to, throw some common sense or have people with compassionate hearts and do go out and vote and, help me, help my friends, help others that need it. So, but I thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to let everyone know what Bruno's life is about, what his 2-year-old body goes through every day, and it's not like a 2-year-old playing with toys and just going to doctor's visits. No, it's IVs, hospitals, medication, EEGs, CAT scans, MRIs, it's a lot. And endoscopy. So he's gone through a lot more than I've ever gone through in my adult life. My son has gone through a lot more than many people, and he's only 2, so it's not fair, and he should be given the right and the opportunity to be treated with this. So I pray, that, and I hope and I beg people to go out and vote yes on number 2 on November 4th.
Thank you so much again for all your time, Jacel. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Jacel Delgadillo. Go check out her son's page. Pray for Bruno on Facebook. The Cannamoms have their own website. I was chatting with Mo on Facebook. She's one of the other moms. She's Cannamom number 4. She's coming on next week. I'm excited. She was telling me they have an actual website, and I didn't even realize it. So, thecannamom.com, thecannamom.com. You want to help Bruno out? Go share his page. And if you're in Florida, educate your loved ones, educate your neighbors, and have them vote yes on 2. You want to help this little boy out? Save his life. Vote yes on 2. Get medical cannabis passed down here so she doesn't have to move to Colorado. Renee told me, and Jacel both told me, because Sierra's out there in Colorado. And I think Mo's out there, if I remember correctly. So the two of them are out there, and 2 of the 4 Cannamoms are not. And both of them have been told by people, well, why don't you just move out there? Why don't you just go? Because they have families, they have lives. So packing up everything and just going isn't as easy as one would think. It's not just easy to pack up your whole family and your kids and your job and everything else and just move. Especially if you have a support system where you are. If you have a sick child, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't understand what it's like to have a sick child, I'm trying to help you understand what these women go through. Okay? So you have a better understanding. That's why I give them so much time to talk about what's going on. They need a support structure. So the simple answer of just pack your crap and go to Colorado is not the answer. How about having some compassion, and not only for them or their children, but other people? What happens if you get sick? Wouldn't you want somebody to have compassion for you? What if it was your kid? Maybe you're a selfish prick, and you don't care about others. How about yourself? If you were in a hospital, and you could be cured by something like cannabis, wouldn't you want it? Wouldn't you want to have access to it? It's 2014, let's be honest. There's no reason it's a Schedule I drug. Well, no logical reason, I should say, that it's a Schedule I drug. It is a Schedule I drug for numerous different reasons, but none of them are good, literally, in the sense of valid or in the sense of intent. We need to rethink how we have been taught to think about the cannabis plant. This isn't about a bunch of hippies in tie-dye shirts getting high out in the woods. Man, this is about saving people's lives. And if we can save little man, wouldn't that be awesome? I honestly wish I could do something more for all these kids. All of them. I wish I could tell the 4 Cannamoms that I could magically somehow cure all 4 of their kids and everybody else's kids that are sick, but at least start with those 4. Dealing with them and talking to them, and seeing their stories, it really does. It does hit me in the soft spot. I was raised by my mom, and I just have I guess I have a soft spot for moms, and they're raising sick kids. They still have the strength to hold their heads up high. Let's do something about this. I mean, they need our help. So everybody step up to the plate. Go to thecannammoms.com, favorite the page, the website, put it on your toolbar on whatever browser you have. Check it out. Show them love on Facebook. Go listen to the interviews I've done with him. Go check out Renee's interview that just came out with Luke Radowski when Luke and I drove up there a couple weeks ago. talk about Jacel, talk about Bruno, talk about Sierra, talk about Landon, talk about Renee and Brandon, Mo and Dahlia. Come on. Let's do this. And here in Florida, we need to get medical cannabis passed. No more screwing around. And when it gets passed, we need to make sure that there's not retarded things put on it so that it's completely restricted to just a few small amount of people. We need to keep an eye on that too, and other type of things, because there's always stuff with it that could lead to a slippery slope, even into police state type things. We have to keep our eye on that stuff. But let's pass this. Let's save this kid. Let's save Bruno. Let's save Brandon. Luckily, Landon and Dahlia are out in Colorado, so they already have access to cannabis. So let's help Jacel and Renee. Let's make it so they don't have to uproot their entire lives. Don't you think that's a bit much to ask a family? Hey, just uproot your whole life. You don't think they have enough stress? And then they'd have to move out to a state where they have no support structure whatsoever. Do you know how stressful that is? Can you imagine what that's like? I don't think you can unless you've gone through it, right? You really don't understand unless you've gone through the experience yourself. You can only understand to a certain extent. What did the natives used to say about that? Native Americans? Don't judge a man until you walk a mile in his moccasins. How about we apply that here? How about we just do the right thing and we stand up and November 4th we pass this? You don't have to be Superman and fly around and pull power from the sun. Although, believe me, if I could to save those 4 kids, I would. If I could even somehow give them some of my own essence to save them, I would. I've gotten to know the moms, and I've gotten to know the stories of these kids. I don't have kids of my own, but I've kind of adopted them somewhat. So if I could, I'd even give them some of my own essence if I possibly could. If I knew that would save them some way, I would. But I know that's not possible. So let's do something that realistically is possible. Let's change the retarded laws in this state so we can save at least 2 children that you know of. Possibly even more. How about that? I challenge you. Help me save these kids. Help me save other people. Help me save the countless millions of people that will benefit from this. So I challenge all of you out there to step up and do something. Everybody says they want to make a positive change. Everybody talks a good game out there. I would save someone's life if I could. Well, now you have a chance to do it. Vote yes on 2 if you live in Florida. And you can actually perhaps save one of these child's lives. At the very least, you'll be making their lives much better than they currently are. Everybody wants to be a superhero? Now's your chance. Help out the Cannamoms, spread the word about them, tell everybody about their stories. And again, if you live in Florida, vote yes on 2, November 4th. Ladies and gentlemen, we are out of time. As I always tell you, the solutions to our problems are an inside job. Look to yourself and you'll find the hero that you've been looking for your whole life to save you. It's actually been inside you the whole time. I'll catch you all again tomorrow night. I love you all. I'm out of here.